Hey guys, welcome to the Spoon Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Wolf, and today's guest is SuperGut CEO Marc Washington, who joins me to talk about this new wave of GLP-1 drugs that are causing a lot of worry among CPG brand CEOs who are going on their quarterly calls and on news and opining that they could eventually lead to depressed appetites in a number of ways for their products. If you're not familiar with these drugs like Ozempic, Wegovy, etc., they essentially got their first life as drugs to help folks manage diabetes, but have become pretty fashionable as of late for folks who are basically using them to lose weight. They're hugely expensive. They're administered via shot, and people speculate that as cost comes down over time, as they become available to take in an oral form, they could become much more popular and have a significant impact on purchases of food and processed food as people just reduce their overall calorie intake. So I thought I would have Marc join us to talk about this, what this phenomenon means, and what he's doing in terms of building an alternative to that, a more natural supplement-based alternative that doesn't require you to put a needle in your arm. And so it's an interesting conversation, a little bit different than our normal one, but I thought you would enjoy it nonetheless. As always, you can get more Spoon podcasts at the usual spots where you get podcasts and at the Spoon. And I know I've mentioned this before, but we will be going to Las Vegas in January, where the Spoon is running CES's Food Tech Conference and their Ad Tech Conference. If you want to join us, go to the Spoon, look at events, and you can find out more information. We'd love to have you. If you want to join us as a sponsor, we'd love to talk to you about that as well. Just drop us an email at sponsor@thespoon.tech. We'll be doing all sorts of other things, including having a Spoon happy hour there as well, the only Food Tech happy hour at CES. So it'll be a lot of fun. All right, folks, that's it for now. Let's get to my conversation with Marc Washington. And all right, I am here with Marc Washington, the CEO of SuperGut. How you doing, Marc?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing, Michael?
Doing great. This is a really timely conversation I've been looking forward to because I've been watching you guys for a bit as I've been thinking through the implications of this new phenomenon, which seems to kind of be on the lips of everyone in the CPG world.
Yes.
Of Ozempic and all these GLP-1 drugs. You know, you guys are kind of doing essentially what is a natural alternative, like a supplement-based alternative, not having to put a needle in your arm.
Yeah.
But I want to spend a little time talking with you about like what you guys are doing, but also first talking about like this whole wave of Ozempic drugs and GLP-1 drugs that seems like suddenly is the talk of the pharmaceutical world and the talk of the CPG world.
Yeah, it literally is the talk of the world, full stop, right? And it's really fascinating. I mean, so when you look back, what's really interesting is these drugs, or this technology around these drugs, has actually been around for years. This GLP-1, this gut hormone that these drugs mimic. But up until now, they are really used for their intended purpose, which is around diabetes control.
Diabetes,
and blood sugar management, right? And that's why they've been prescribed for diabetes for a number of years, because they're very effective at blood sugar control. Blood sugar control, though, is also very connected to appetite, right? And weight management. And like different iterations of these GLP-1 hormones have shown like incredibly effective at essentially eliminating your cravings. So people just, when they're taking these drugs, these latest iterations of them, people just don't feel hungry.
Yeah, and they're eating like 30% less calories, 25% less calories, which is a huge difference.
And when that happens, like it's a true calorie imbalance, right? And calorie deficit, and people are losing a lot of weight. And it's in some ways, like in pharma, it's, you know, a little bit of the holy grail, right? Because everybody wants to lose weight. And a lot of people, it's really important to lose weight because weight is so interconnected to so many different conditions, physical, mental, etc. But up until now, it's been very, very difficult, right? Both pharmaceutically as well as kind of just following just through lifestyle habits as well. Yeah. And so this is just really fascinating and breakthrough, the fact that these drugs are leading people to lose 15, 20% of their weight. And so that's why they have taken off, all right? Because never before have we seen something that's been that effective at, you know, this such a massive condition that affects many people significantly, like those who are obese, which is a large number. But frankly, it's a topic, which is weight, that all of us think about, right?
I think the Wall Street Journal had a story where CPG brand CEOs are talking about it on their quarterly calls. And I don't know, I think Elon Musk tweeted about him using one of these drugs. I think that helped it go more viral. So
those things have like TikTok and celebrities, because what's happened is now that it, you know, even though it was intended for diabetes, once it learned that it was good at weight loss, then like people who even aren't afflicted or diagnosed with these diseases want to get their hands on it, right? With its weight, and Hollywood and actors and famous people and posting about it on TikTok. And that has definitely been part of what's helped this thing really, really explode. And now we're talking about the secondary effects, right? On
Yeah.
CPG and big food and et cetera, as one of the areas that's going to be impacted.
So for people who don't know about these, right? What's unusual to me is they are like a new dietary plan for people, but they're very expensive. At least like from what I've seen, like $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And most of people taking it via a shot, not an oral form.
Yeah,
so
no, that's the only way it's available currently is through a weekly injection. And if you're not prescribed, so if you're not diagnosed with diabetes or at least obesity, you need to get an off-label prescription, right? And you're paying out of pocket. Typically, it's $1,000 a month, and it's a weekly injection. And so there are things that come along with this that make it a little difficult, but it's exploded despite some of those difficulties. The other side of it is, as with any drug, there's always going to be side effects, and there are side effects associated with these drugs as well. So it's not a panacea solve all. Like most of the side effects are gastrointestinal, right? Because it literally is disrupting your system.
Yeah. And not only side effects, there's been essentially fake drugs on the market, right? So I think there's a headline the other day where a woman had died because she had bought a version that wasn't an authentic version. And so Novo Nordisk and other pharmaceutical companies are like policing this, but there's something they have to be worried about.
Yeah, no, it really does. It's something that needs to be watched and monitored, not just the fake versions of the drug, but even the drug itself, right? And understanding what the long-term implication, not just the side effects, which are common, but just the long-term ramifications, which we don't know all of, right? Especially outside of the population that these were designed for and clinically studied on. And so some of that's still to be determined. Like one of the things that's come up is some portion of people, it's not huge, but it's important, have significant gastrointestinal, like a blockage of the intestines, gastroparesis. I think they're even starting to put it on the label, right? And so there are real things to be mindful of. I mean, it doesn't offset the fact that they're very, very effective at losing weight, but there's real things to be mindful of. One other thing, Michael, is important. Again, this isn't solving a root cause. It's actually more treating the symptom, right? It can help you lose weight. But the studies have shown, and real world evidence has shown, for people that come off these drugs, if they haven't changed some of the underlying lifestyle habits, diet, exercise, et cetera, they gain the weight back, right? And so for most people, like, to keep this weight off, unless they're willing to make those other changes, it's essentially they need to stay on it for life. And that's not necessarily the best scenario, the best way to live your healthiest life.
Can you spend a little time explaining what a GLP-1 type of drug like Ozempic is doing? I mean, it's resembling a peptide that you might get through food, but it's essentially a synthetic form of that.
The main class of these drugs are called GLP-1 drugs, glucagon-like peptide. There are other hormones as well in some of these different versions that are similar, that use that technology and use other hormones as well. These are hormones that are naturally produced in your body, and specifically in your gut microbiome. But they've taken it basically in concentrated doses and found ways to mimic the effect of these drugs and kind of do it in a concentrated way, right? That makes it very potent. And what these drugs do is it's a couple of things. Like when you take them, they basically slow down your gastric emptying, right, which keeps you feeling fuller longer. But they also have a direct tie to your mental condition as well. They actually send signals to your brain that you are full. And so that combination, like the physical and the mental, essentially cuts your appetite, right? So people that are taking these drugs literally just don't feel hungry. Literally the thought of eating a ton of food and big, greasy, unhealthy food is making some people sick, right? It is to that point where you literally can't eat, things that used to bring you joy. You don't want to eat them. You can't eat them. And as a result, you're losing weight. The thing is, again, this is based on stuff that your body is naturally meant to do. And it does, based on diet and based on your gut microbiome. But the problem is, none of us are getting enough of the nutrients that we need to do this effectively on a consistent basis. And that's predominantly prebiotics, which you need to be getting a lot more of in your diet, which we kind of already knew, but
Yeah.
we didn't know this was the reason why. Right now we know like one more reason why grandma was right that you need to get more fiber is that fiber is where most prebiotics are found, and the prebiotics trigger that same mechanism that actually the byproducts when you consume prebiotics, it's consumed by the good bugs in your gut, and they produce byproducts that regulate production of these hormones, these same hormones that these drugs are based on. So there are natural ways to do it, and obviously that's one of the important things about how SuperGut works.
Yeah. So segueing to what you guys are doing, you provide a number of different products, like in the form of supplements. I see you do bars. You have, I think, shakes that, like you just said, I think you're getting at, provide these a more natural way to satisfy those cravings, and will send those signals to your brain that you aren't hungry. Talk a little bit about it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so at SuperGut, we describe at the highest level as we create like gut healthy superfoods that are incredibly effective, not only at improving digestion, but really effective at curbing your cravings and helping appetite control to help you support kind of healthier weight, healthier blood sugar, and a range of other benefits that we tap into as well. So really highly functional foods, but also done in a way that's accessible, not only just natural and effective, but enjoyable, right? And so we make shakes that people really enjoy, and they also keep people feeling very full. But we make really delicious snack bars, and then we also offer this prebiotic blend as a standalone powder as well, which is unflavored, unsweetened, that you can just add to anything to make it a gut healthier, more appetite, control version of whatever it was before. You can add it to coffee or yogurt or smoothies or what have you. All of our products contain this, our proprietary prebiotic fiber blend, the specific types of prebiotics that are actually really, really effective at producing byproducts that actually regulate this GLP-1 hormone.
Tell me what resistant starch is, because when I look at, for example, your powders, that seems like that's the magic sauce, the secret sauce.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you asked, because so I like to start this at the highest level. So we're talking about prebiotics. Again, prebiotics are the food for the good bugs in your gut to keep you healthy. Prebiotics are mostly found in high fiber plant foods. Now, all fiber is good for you, all prebiotics are good for you, but they're not all created equal. Like specific types, when we research this, are especially effective at resisting your normal digestive process, which means they're able to get into your large intestine, your gut, and feed the good bugs. Resistant starches, call it at the top of that class, right? And it's called resistant starch because it is so effective at resisting digestion. It's found naturally in like starchy plant foods. And so unripened green bananas, some beans, some legumes, the skin of potatoes are all different forms of resistant starch. So it's a type of a prebiotic, right, that feeds good bugs in your gut. And it's the primary source that we use in our prebiotic fiber blend is resistant starch. But we also combine it with other types, such as beta-glucan from oats, which also has a ton of clinical evidence. We actually see there's a big synergistic effect in that kind of combination of prebiotics, resistant starch, oat beta-glucan, et cetera, that we put in our blend. So yeah, just super powered, really, really effective types of prebiotics. That's what resistant starch is.
All right. Tell me about the origin story, because I know that you were born out of the production board, I believe. And this is like a very different type of company than I've seen spun out of Dave Friedberg's incubation factory.
Yeah.
So how did you guys become born? What's the origin story?
So there's a couple elements to this. So I'd say the first is like this head meets heart moment. I've been in the space for most of my career around just health and wellness, and I love helping people live healthier. But I had an aspiration to do more. Typically, I was more in an executive type capacity, but and in this better for you space. But a lot of it goes back to why I decided to start a company was actually a personal story of my sister, Monica, that I've been quite outspoken about, who inspires me. So she, like way too many people, struggled with their health. She struggled with her weight, with her blood sugar, with blood pressure, and she tragically passed away far too young due to complications with her health and a high risk pregnancy. And as you can imagine, kind of going through that, just literally shook me to my core that this would happen in my own family, right? I mean, I'm helping people live healthier lives out there in the world and shakes and workouts, et cetera. But this happened in my own family. My own sister tragically passed. And that really, for me, was the motivation to do something about it. It's kind of helped me really come to terms with my why. My North Star is to help people live healthier lives. So it's something that's really functional and effective. And that's kind of built into the ethos of this company. And now, so when I was there, I was like, I want to do something. I want to create kind of a business that could do this still through food, though. And it was when I met Dave Friedberg from the production board, who we had actually connected years ago, that I actually realized there was a pathway to do this, right? And so Dave, first of all, was like, listen, I'd love to back you, as they do incubate kind of businesses, partner with entrepreneurs, technologists to create science-based companies. They haven't done as much in consumer, right? Yeah. In consumer packaged foods, but that's more my background. He's like, listen, if you really want to do this and affect people, we'd love to back you. And what do you know about the gut microbiome, right? And so I was like, that's interesting. I know a little bit. Gut health's important. I, take a probiotic every once in a while. He's like, no. Like, the science of the gut microbiome is so much deeper, and that there really aren't true functional food businesses that are really delivering efficacy in the way that it can be, that we know that the gut is responsible for. And that really was born, this concept of SuperGut, right? How do I align this ethos of functional food that's unbelievably accessible and enjoyable, but also functional, with the gut microbiome, right? This foundation for better health. And so that's where the concept came together, where I saw there was actually a path to call it activate this vision that I had in partnership with Dave. And we researched prebiotics and resistant starch, and then we created our blend, and now, and here we are a couple of years later.
So much of the intersection of things like microbiome and tech that I've heard about over the past couple of years is around personalized nutrition. Do you guys have on your whiteboard some ideas around where you're going to go around kind of personalized type of approaches? I mean, could you ultimately see you guys doing some sort of testing and giving me like my own kind of mix around my own microbiome? Talk a little bit about what your thoughts are.
I think it's possible, and I think I'm really fascinated by the personalization space. I will say that the science isn't fully there yet in terms of creating solutions that are highly effective on a personalized level in a way that's a scalable model. At least I haven't seen it yet, right? And so it's one of those areas that we will stay close to. But in the meantime, kind of before the science gets all the way there, before we get there, I'm like, how do we affect the largest number of people with some just known truths based on clinical evidence that can positively impact 95% of us? And so that's more of the focus that we have, both with our current products and with what's in the loop.
Is the science not there on personalization, particularly as it pertains to the microbiome? Because there are like a number of personalized nutrition startups saying, hey, you need more of this in your diet versus this. Not necessarily targeting a microbiome, but it's just say supplements. Is it more on the microbiome side? You don't think it's there?
Yeah. I think a lot of it's on the microbiome side. And then in particular, when people get into personalization on the microbiome, it's around probiotics, right? Yeah. And so being able to elucidate and prove, from a clinical standpoint, that the personalization approach actually works. What we do know is that everybody's microbiome is different and unique, and like your own thumbprint. There's some commonalities, but there's some unique aspects. But then what to do about that, and how different forms of probiotic supplementation affects that and does so in a way that delivers clinically validated outcomes, is where I've seen kind of the gap still, to be able to connect sort of the potential with the actual solutions and then prove that they work, is where I see there being a gap still. So directionally, I absolutely think things will continue to go in this direction. But for me, like I like something that I know works and can validate it clinically, as we have done for, again, 90+% of the population. I think we can have massive impact on some of these truths that are essentially truths for practically all of us.
Where do you guys see yourself fitting? I mean, I think Tufts just announced the first Food is Medicine Institute.
Yes.
I kind of see you guys fitting in there, because quite honestly, sticking a needle in our arms, like if it works these miracles, that's great. But most people don't have $1,000 a month. We don't know what the long-term effects are.
Yep.
So I think, tailoring better health around what you put in your mouth versus like shots in your arm, I think is the way to go long term. Do you guys see yourself as kind of the food as part of the broader food as medicine movement?
Yeah, no, we definitely are singing from the same sheet of music, Michael. I've always been and remain just a huge proponent. The way I describe it is I'm not anti-medication. Like I think pharma has its needs and treating diseases. I'm just very pro nutrition, right? I'm pro natural ways that our bodies are unbelievably magical, and what already exists in nature. A lot has been figured out. Like if we just put them together in the right ways, you have the power, like within you, when fed the right things to chart a healthier course. And so we pride ourselves at being kind of at the forefront of this food as medicine movement, right? And so not just doing it in name or at a surface level, but actually kind of doing the research and frankly doing the clinical validation to show that if we're not just going to say food is medicine, we're not just going to make a claim based on a tiny bits of an ingredient being on our stuff. This stuff actually works. And we're going to go out and show that it works and prove that it works. And I think that is going to be a big part of this food as medicine movement. Is we're going to see more. If we're going to say it, let's actually show you how this works. Let's validate it. And then kind of let's make this product accessible and available. So yes, very much see ourselves at the forefront of the food as medicine movement. And I think packaged goods has such a critical role to play as part of that movement. Because a lot of the talk, which I support all of it in food as medicine, but a lot of the focus is around like food insecurity, healthy produce access, like tailored meal plans towards disease states, et cetera. I think all those elements are important. I think what doesn't get as much of the airplay in the food as medicine discussions is packaged food. Because typically, historically, packaged food has not been kind of the wedge that is like the functional, healthy, but packaged food and snacking aren't going away, right? I mean,
No.
this is, I think, has such a massive role, frankly, in how we've gotten to such a bad state of health. And I think I don't see a path towards kind of improving public health without it going in large part through packaged foods, packaged functional foods that are actually, contributing to your health. And we that's our space where we very much aspire to be a leader in this food as medicine movement.
I think it'd be great if everyone could just shop on the outer edges at the grocery store and bring home fresh food. But let's be honest,
come on,
packaged food is going to be a staple of so many. We buy tons of packaged foods. I think everyone does.
I mean, the age-old adage of just eat healthy, whole foods, lots of plants and veggies and exercise more is all intentionally well-intentioned and directionally accurate, but just not practical for so many of us, right? And so I want to live in the practical world. How do we make this something that actually has impact at the end of the day? And food, including packaged food, is a very, very important role in this.
Okay, tell us about the company's success in terms of like where you're at. Like, can you talk to like growth? How many customers you had? I mean, how much of this is going out the door? What give us some metrics in terms of where you guys are.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've come up as a direct-to-consumer brand, which has gotten more difficult, right, over recent years, as there's a not just competition and lots of people making lots of claims out there, but just the as a channel, your ability to attract new customers has gotten just significantly more expensive. That's actually led to our expansion, which we're seeing great progress now as an omni-channel brand. And so that includes the first step that we've taken is on Amazon. So now in addition to our own site, supergut.com, we are now available on Amazon, and it's growing at a very, very healthy clip on our Amazon business. The next stage for us, where we're starting to make inroads, where I really think is critical, is scaling in physical retail. So it's always been part of the plan, and the time is finally now. And so we're finally making some great traction. We've got an upcoming launch focused initially on the natural channel, so retailers like Erewhon and Bristol Farms and Sprouts, but already in conversation with some of the much larger, even the big box conventional retail outlets as well. Frankly, sooner than I anticipated.
Yeah.
And I think in large part because of this Ozempic era, right? It is literally creating a moment for us, which is building a ton of momentum. Like literally the past couple of weeks, we've seen like doubling because of the fact that there's so much interest and buzz around Ozempic. And when we talk about natural ways to, tap into those same hunger resisting hormones, but in a gut healthy, natural way that really is creating a lot of interest from consumers, from retailers as well. So yeah, this is definitely a momentum.
Why not supplement stores? Is that like a channel for you? Or is it more natural for you guys to lean into kind of the natural foods angle?
I'd say it's a really great question, Michael. Actually, both are the initial channels that we've outlined. So natural channel is always the pointiest at tip of the spear for us. But supplement stores is, call it the next era for us. So call it the GNCs, the vitamin shops of the world are very much in line next, right? With a more progressive shopper that's looking for through some form of nutrition, right, to improve their health. Now, specifically, our products are more food than traditional supplements. Like we don't have those. Yes, we have powders, but they're actually like our shake is actually, we have nutrition facts on our panel because it, every single ingredient is generally recognized as safe, which is required for foods, and our shakes are actually a full meal replacement as well. So even though we're not categorized officially as a supplement, like we in a supplement store makes absolute logic and sense, and we are starting to have some of those conversations as well.
I mean, the ultimate like destination is like Target and Costco and Walmart. Are those places that are asking about, or at least inquiring about microbiome, not supplements, but actually food? Food is medicine around your microbiome?
Michael, 100%. So I'm not going to name names, but I'll tell you recently, I was in conversations with one of those, and having a conversation, again, much earlier than I anticipated, because we're still a small kind of emerging business. But it was a conversation about our products and about the gut. And what really prompted it was this Ozempic era. And the fact that it's not just, people are getting that gut health isn't just about digestion, actually tying it back to appetite control and weight management. And so I was in conversation, and a lot of the conversation was about GLP-1s, which I was like, this is fascinating to me that we're sitting here talking with this major retailer about GLP-1s and how this works and does it naturally boost these things. It's like we were talking about GLP-1s 4 or 5 years ago when Dave Friedberg and I met, right? Because we were talking about the gut microbiome and how this works, and that was understood to be the main mechanism to tap your gut into metabolic health. And now, fast forward 4 years later, this is becoming kind of, consumers are talking about it and retailers are talking about it. And like I said, in a way that's creating some real interest and opportunity, both the conversations that I'm having, as well as you alluded to at the outset, like most of these retailers and big food brands are being asked, what are you doing? What are you seeing? What are you doing about this Ozempic era? Because people that are using it, it's only growing, and we know that their behavior is changing. And even people who aren't using the drugs are at least aware, right? And I call them Ozempic curious, right? And so thinking about them and also thinking about other ways that they might mimic some of those results without sticking themselves, with a weekly injection.
What's the 10 years from now goal for your ingredient, your starch? Could I be seeing that in like a broad facing consumer CPG bar? Could I ultimately get like Doritos with, could we see like natural substitutes in standard over the counter CPG products that would have some of these impacts on us?
I think it is a great question, Michael. Obviously our initial focus over kind of like the coming years is how can we be that brand, right? And make SuperGut ubiquitous and have our products, these functional food products, kind of available, very broadly accessible. That said, whether it comes directly through us or, through some form of licensing is definitely possible. We have seen already that our prebiotic blend, which we actually have patented, so there actually is IP around it, is very functional across different product formats, right? So we've seen it in our shakes and our bars as a standalone. And we know that a lot of people are using, our blend, our fiber blend, in other products, in foods. It's like we could actually create or partner with someone else to license, right, our IP to create a gut healthier version of your favorite foods and beverages. I think that this is the direction where things are going. Obviously, I think that's in part for SuperGut, but I'd say for food broadly, right? This shift towards more function, I think isn't just going to be in drugs and in supplements. I think absolutely it's going to impact food. And so more functional, fortified, nutrient-dense foods are going to be out there, both from upstart brands like ourselves, And I think through big CPG are going to have more fortified, versions of your favorite snacks and foods. And that's, when it gets to there, like that's when you're talking about real impact, right? I mean, when you're in Doritos and you have a healthier Doritos that's still delicious and you don't feel like you're sacrificing, I think that's
it's kind of self-defeating though. I don't know if I ever believe Doritos will do it. I can see I think like more like the oatmeals of the world, right? Like I think that's a good delivery.
That's easier to envision. Yes.
All right. So people want to check out SuperGut. I think you guys are just supergut.com.
That's right. Yeah, that's the main place to check us out is on our website, supergut.com. Like I mentioned, we are available on Amazon as well. So you can check us out there as well.
All right. I'm going to try it out. I think you guys have and this is not like you didn't pay me for this, but I saw you have a 20% push or 20% discount on your first order. I'm going to try it out. And I'll let everyone know how it goes. But hey, Mark, thanks for doing this, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me, Michael.
All right, that's it. I hope you learned a lot. I know I did. It's an area that I don't usually write about or think about much, but it's one that is certainly interesting and food tech adjacent. So I thought we would have an interesting conversation about it, and we did. The Spoon Podcast is brought to you by me, Michael Wolf, and The Spoon. If you haven't already given us a review or ranked or rated The Spoon Podcast on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do that. It always helps. All right, that's it for now. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.